The stars look different from Luna Station. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the observation deck, watching the alien ship approach Earth's moon. He had seen many ships in his 20 years of service, but nothing like this. The vessel was massive, its hull gleaming with metals that seemed to shift color in the starlight. Strange symbols covered its surface, pulsing with soft blue light. "Sir, the alien ship is requesting permission to dock," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Bennett from behind him. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the excitement underneath. After decades of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. "Grant them permission," Jake replied. He straightened his uniform and checked his appearance in the window's reflection. First impressions mattered, especially when you were representing your entire species. The alien ship docked with surprising grace for something so large. Jake watched the docking tube extend and seal with Luna Station. His team had been preparing for this moment for months, ever since the long-range sensors had detected the approaching vessel. Earth's governments had chosen Jake to lead the first contact team because of his calm nature and diplomatic experience. "Are you ready for this, Captain?" asked Dr. Kate Williams, the team's scientific advisor. She had joined them on the observation deck, along with the rest of the first contact team. "As ready as anyone can be," Jake answered with a slight smile. "Remember, we follow the protocols. Be respectful, be honest, but don't reveal too much about our capabilities. We need to understand their intentions first." The team moved to the docking bay where they would meet the aliens. Jake had chosen his people carefully. Lisa was one of Earth's best engineers, Dr. Williams was a brilliant scientist who spoke 7 languages, and Commander Alex Turner was their military representative. All of them had been briefed on the importance of this meeting. The airlock hissed open, and the first alien stepped through. Ambassador Zethkar was impressive, standing nearly 8 feet tall with dark purple skin that seemed to shimmer like scales. His forearms moved with fluid grace, and his large golden eyes studied the humans with obvious intelligence. He wore robes of deep red fabric that looked expensive and ceremonial. "Greetings," Zethkar said in perfect English. His voice was deep and resonant. "I am Ambassador Zethkar of the Valorian Empire, representing the Galactic Council. I bring words of peace and friendship to the people of Earth." Jake stepped forward and extended his hand in the traditional human greeting. "Welcome to Luna Station, Ambassador. I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing Earth and all of humanity. We are honored by your visit." Zethkar looked at the offered hand with curiosity, then extended one of his own arms to clasp it. His skin felt warm and slightly rough, like fine sandpaper. "An interesting custom," the alien said. "We have much to learn about each other." The team escorted Zethkar to the station's main conference room. The ambassador moved with surprising grace for such a large being, his robes flowing behind him like water. Jake noticed that 2 other aliens had accompanied him, smaller beings who remained silent and watchful. "Please sit wherever you're comfortable," Jake offered, gesturing to the specially prepared seating area. They had made adjustments to accommodate different body types. Not knowing what to expect, Zethkar settled into a reinforced chair, his forearms resting comfortably on the armrests. "Your station is well constructed," he observed. "Simple but functional, very much like what we expected from your species." Dr. Williams leaned forward slightly. "What did you expect from us, Ambassador?" The alien's golden eyes focused on her. "We have observed your world for several decades. Your species shows promise, but you are still very young in galactic terms. Your technology is primitive compared to the greater galaxy, but you show creativity and determination." Jake kept his expression neutral, though he felt a flash of annoyance at being called primitive. "We're always eager to learn, Ambassador. Perhaps you could tell us about this Galactic Council you represent." Zethkar's manner became more formal, like a teacher addressing students. "The Galactic Council is an alliance of over 300 species spread across 2,000 star systems. We maintain peace, facilitate trade, and help younger civilizations develop safely." "We have existed for over 10,000 of your years," Lisa spoke up. "That's incredible. How many species are like us, just beginning to explore space? Very few, Zethkar replied. Most species either destroy themselves before reaching the stars or they develop too quickly and become aggressive. Your species is unusual. You have survived your early nuclear age and begun to explore your local system without destroying your homeworld. This shows wisdom. Commander Turner, who had been quiet until now, asked, "What does membership in the council involve?" The ambassador's expression became businesslike. There are different levels of membership, depending on a species' development and contributions. Young species typically begin as protectorates, receiving guidance and protection. While they grow, eventually they may become full members with voting rights and territorial claims. Jake sensed this was important. What would Earth's status be? Based on our observations, Earth would qualify for protectorate status. You would receive access to basic galactic technologies, protection from hostile species, and guidance in developing your civilization. In return, you would provide resources and contribute to council projects within your capabilities. Dr. Williams exchanged glances with the other team members. What kind of resources? Zethkar waved one of his hands dismissively. Nothing beyond. Your current abilities? Perhaps rare minerals from your asteroid belt or scientific data from your exploration efforts. Your species has a reputation for being thorough researchers. Jake felt there was something the ambassador wasn't saying. The alien seemed confident, almost condescending, as if he were offering charity to poor relatives. Ambassador, we appreciate your offer, but this is a big decision for our people. We would need time to consider all the implications. The alien looked surprised. Time? Most species are eager to join the galactic community immediately. The benefits far outweigh any concerns. I'm sure they do, Jake said calmly. But humans tend to be cautious about major decisions. We would prefer to observe how the Council operates before making any commitments. Perhaps we could start with observer status. Zethkar's forearms shifted slightly, a gesture that might have been the alien equivalent of a shrug. Unusual but acceptable. Observer status would allow you to attend council sessions and learn about galactic affairs, but you would have no voting rights and no claim to council protection. That sounds reasonable, Jake agreed. We appreciate your understanding. The meeting continued for several more hours, with the humans asking questions about galactic politics, trade, and technology. Zethkar answered most questions freely, though Jake noticed he was vague about military matters and advanced technologies. The ambassador seemed to view humans as harmless primitives who posed no threat to anyone. As the formal discussions wound down, Zethkar became more relaxed. Your species is refreshingly peaceful, he commented. Most young civilizations are either terrified of us or immediately demand our most advanced weapons. You seem content to learn slowly, Lisa smiled. We've learned that patience often leads to better outcomes than rushing into things. Wise words, the ambassador agreed. Though I suspect your patience comes from having no real threats to face. Your local space is quite empty of hostile forces. Jake kept his expression neutral. We've been fortunate in that regard. As the meeting ended, Zethkar stood and performed what seemed to be a formal bow. I will report to the Council that Earth accepts observer status. A Council representative will contact you within 1 of your months to arrange your first session attendance. The humans escorted the alien delegation back to their ship. As they watched the massive vessel depart, Lisa turned to Jake. What did you think of him? Jake was quiet for a moment, watching the alien ship accelerate toward the edge of the solar system. He seemed genuine, but also very sure of himself. Did you notice how he kept referring to us as primitive and young? Dr. Williams nodded. He definitely sees us as the junior partners in this relationship, which might be exactly what we want him to think. Commander Turner smiled grimly. Let them underestimate us. It might prove useful later. Jake watched the alien ship disappear among the stars. The meeting had gone well, perhaps too well. The ambassador had been almost dismissive of human capabilities, which was interesting considering he had no real knowledge of what those capabilities actually were. Send the report to Earth Command, Jake ordered. Tell them that first contact was successful and that we now have observer status with the Galactic Council. Also note that the aliens seem to have significantly underestimated human development. As his team dispersed to their duties, Jake remained at the observation deck. The stars looked the same as before, but everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they had just taken their first steps into a much larger and more dangerous galaxy than most people realized. The game had begun, and the aliens had no idea who they were really dealing with. 6 months had passed since the first meeting with Ambassador Zethkar. Commander Alex Turner sat in the observer section of the Galactic Council chamber, watching the emergency session unfold before him. The massive circular room buzzed with activity as representatives from hundreds of species argued in dozens of languages. Translation devices made the chaos barely understandable. The crisis had started 3 weeks ago, when the Krillian Dominion launched surprise attacks on 3 Council member worlds. The Krillians were a warrior race that had been testing Council boundaries for years, but no one expected them to be this bold. Their ships had appeared without warning, devastating the planetary defenses and claiming the worlds as Krillian territory. Admiral Korath, the Council's military commander, stood at the center of the chamber. His blue skin was darker than usual, a sign of stress in his species. "The situation is critical," he announced, his voice carrying across the vast room. "Krillian forces have established strongholds on Centauri Prime, New Zarian, and the Talvek colonies. Our peacekeeping fleets are outnumbered 3-1? A representative from the Zarian Collective raised her arm. "Admiral, what about reinforcements from the core worlds?" "Already deployed," Korath replied grimly. "But the Krillians have superior numbers and their new battle tactics are proving effective. We need additional support from any member willing to contribute." Alex had been listening to these discussions for hours. Various species offered what they could spare, but it was never enough. The Krillians had been preparing for this war for decades, while the Council had grown comfortable with peace. "What about the Outer Rim territories?" asked a delegate from the Valorian Empire. "Surely some of the newer members can contribute ships or resources." Ambassador Zethkar, who Alex recognized from the first contact meeting, stood to address the chamber. "Most of our newer members lack the military capacity to make a meaningful difference. The humans, for example, have observer status, but their technology is still centuries behind our standard." Alex felt a slight smile cross his face. He stood up slowly, and the chamber's attention system highlighted his position. As an observer, he rarely spoke during sessions, so his request for recognition drew curious looks from around the room. "The chair recognizes Observer Turner from Earth," announced the session moderator. Alex walked to the speaking platform, feeling hundreds of alien eyes watching him. He was a tall man with graying hair and a calm demeanor that served him well in diplomatic situations. "Thank you, moderator. Earth would like to contribute to the peacekeeping effort?" A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber. Zethkar looked genuinely shocked. "Commander Turner, while we appreciate the gesture, this conflict requires military vessels and experienced combat personnel. No offense intended, but Earth's capabilities are quite limited." "None taken, Ambassador," Alex replied with a pleasant smile. "We understand our limitations. However, Earth can provide 1 patrol group to assist in the current crisis." Admiral Korath leaned forward in his command chair. "1 patrol group?" "Commander, the Krillians have deployed over 200 warships. What could a single patrol group possibly accomplish?" Alex maintained his calm expression. "Perhaps not much, Admiral, but we'd like to try." The patrol group consists of the UES Defiant and her escort vessels, under the command of Captain Ryan Phillips. They're currently our most experienced deep space unit. The chamber erupted in whispered conversations. Most of the delegates seemed to view Earth's offer as either touching or naive. A few looked openly amused at the idea of primitive humans joining a galactic war. Zethkar stood again. "Commander Turner, I must advise against this course of action. The Krillians are ruthless warriors who show no mercy to weaker opponents. Your ships and crews would be destroyed within minutes of engagement. We appreciate your concern, Ambassador, Alex said, but humans have a saying about standing up for what's right, even when the odds are against you. We can't offer much, but we can offer what we have. The session moderator consulted with the council leadership. After several minutes of discussion, Admiral Korath addressed the chamber. Earth's offer is accepted. Commander Turner, please have your patrol group report to Sector 7 within 48 hours. They will be assigned to rear guard duties. To minimize casualties, Alex nodded respectfully. Thank you, Admiral. Captain Phillips will be honored to serve alongside the Council fleet. As Alex returned to his seat, he could hear the continued discussions around him. Most delegates seemed to view Earth's participation as a symbolic gesture at best. Some were already planning memorial services for the humans who would surely die in their first real space battle. 2 days later, the UES Defiant and her escort ships arrived at the designated coordinates. Captain Ryan Phillips was exactly what Central Casting would order for a space captain, tall, confident, with steady hands and eyes that missed nothing. His ship was sleek but unremarkable by galactic standards, showing no obvious weapon systems or advanced technology. Admiral Korath's flagship, the Judgment of Stars, was a massive dreadnought that dwarfed the human vessels. The Admiral opened a communication channel with the newly arrived patrol group. Captain Phillips, welcome to the Council fleet. I'm assigning your group to perimeter patrol duties. Stay clear of any major engagements and focus on reconnaissance and communication relay. Phillips appeared on the communication screen, his expression respectful but confident. Understood, Admiral. We'll do our part. Captain, I must stress the importance of staying within your assigned patrol zone. The Krillians have been using hit-and-run tactics, and they show no mercy to isolated vessels. We appreciate the warning, Admiral, Phillips replied. My crew is prepared for whatever we might encounter. The human patrol group took their assigned position on the fleet's outer edge. For the next week, they performed routine patrols and communication duties while the main Council fleet engaged Krillian forces in several skirmishes. The battles were not going well for the Council. Then came the emergency that would change everything. Long range sensors detected a massive Krillian fleet moving toward the Zentari system. Intelligence reports suggested this was their main battle group, over 50 warships strong, moving to secure their conquered territory. The Council fleet was too far away to intercept in time. Admiral Korath called an emergency meeting of all ship commanders. The holographic conference room was filled with worried faces from dozens of species. The situation is critical, Korath announced. The Krillian main fleet will reach Zentari Prime in 6 hours. Our fastest ships can't get there in time to mount an effective defense. The Zentari civilian population numbers in the millions. Captain Phillips raised his hand. Admiral, the Defiant and her escorts are in the best position to reach the system quickly. Korath looked at the human captain with something approaching pity. Captain, I appreciate your courage, but 3 ships against 50 is suicide. Even our largest dreadnoughts would have difficulty against those odds. Sir, we're not suggesting we fight the entire fleet, Phillips replied calmly. But we might be able to delay them long enough for the main Council force to arrive. The other commanders exchanged glances. A Zarian captain spoke up. Captain Phillips, delay tactics against the Krillians usually involve ramming attacks. Your crews would not survive. Phillips smiled slightly. We'll try to avoid that particular tactic, sir. My crew has some experience with difficult odds. Admiral. Korath studied the tactical display. The math was simple and brutal. The Krillians would reach Zentari Prime long before any Council ships could intervene. The human patrol group was the only friendly force in range, but sending them would be murder. Captain, I cannot order you to undertake such a mission, Korath said finally. It would be sending you to certain death? Admiral, you're not ordering us, Phillips replied. We're volunteering. Sometimes you have to take risks to protect innocent people. The conference room fell silent. Every commander present understood the implications. The humans were offering to sacrifice themselves to buy time for a rescue that might never come. Very well, Captain Phillips, Admiral Korath said solemnly. May fortune favor your efforts. The Council will not forget your sacrifice. Phillips nodded respectfully. Thank you, Admiral. We'll contact you when we reach the Zentari system. The human ships changed course, accelerating toward what everyone believed would be their destruction. Across the Council fleet, alien crews watched the small human vessels disappear into hyperspace. Admiral Korath stood alone on his bridge, staring at the tactical display. In all his years of military service, he had never felt such a mixture of admiration and sadness. The humans were brave beyond measure, but bravery alone would not stop 50 Krillian warships. Sir, his communications officer called out. We're receiving a message from Captain Phillips. Korath straightened. Put it through. Phillips appeared on the main screen, his image clear and steady. Admiral, we've reached the Zentari system. Krillian fleet is approaching as expected. We'll engage them in approximately 30 minutes. Captain, are you certain about this course of action? There's no shame in withdrawal. Phillips smiled, that same calm smile he had shown throughout the crisis. Admiral, we told you we'd handle this. Please maintain safe distance from the engagement zone. Admiral Korath stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the long-range sensors with growing dread. The Krillian battle fleet was approaching the Zentari system like a storm of death. 50 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet, moving in perfect formation toward their target. Somewhere ahead of them, 3 small human ships waited in the darkness of space. Sir, we're receiving telemetry from the Zentari system, reported his sensor officer, a young Zarian named Vex. The Krillian fleet has entered the outer system. No sign of the human patrol group yet, Korath nodded grimly. Perhaps Captain Phillips had come to his senses and withdrawn. It would be the smart thing to do. The Admiral had seen too many brave crews die in hopeless battles. Sometimes retreat was the only victory possible. Admiral, called his communications officer, we have a message from Captain Phillips. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of the human ship's bridge. Phillips sat in his command chair, looking as calm as if he were on a training mission. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. Admiral Korath, this is Captain Phillips. We have visual contact with the Krillian fleet, beginning engagement in 2 minutes. Please maintain your current distance for safety reasons. Korath leaned forward. Captain, you still have time to withdraw. No one will think less of you for avoiding a hopeless battle. Phillips smiled, that same infuriating, calm smile. Admiral, we appreciate your concern, but we told you we'd handle this. The Defiant and her escorts are in position. We estimate this will take about 30 minutes. 30 minutes? Korath couldn't hide his shock. Captain, you're facing 50 enemy warships. How can you possibly— Sir, we need to focus on the battle now, Phillips interrupted politely. We'll talk more after we're done. Phillips out. The screen went dark, leaving Korath staring at his own reflection. Around him, the bridge crew exchanged worried glances. 30 minutes? The humans would be lucky to last 30 seconds against the Krillian war machine. Sir, should we begin moving closer to provide support? Asked his tactical officer. No, Korath replied after a moment. The captain specifically asked us to maintain distance. We honor that request. He paused, then added quietly, and we prepare to witness the end of Earth's first space fleet. Light years away in the Zentari system, events were unfolding that would be remembered for centuries. General Vorthok commanded the Krillian battle fleet from his massive dreadnought, the Blood of Victory. He was a veteran of dozens of campaigns, his scarred hide bearing the marks of countless battles. The conquest of the 3 Council worlds had been his greatest triumph, but he wasn't finished yet. Report? He growled to his tactical officer. Sir, we're approaching the inner system. Zentari Prime is defenseless as expected. However, we're detecting 3 small vessels in our path. Vorthak's eyes narrowed. Council reinforcements? Negative. Sir, the energy signatures are unknown. The ships appear to be of primitive design. Primitive? Vorthak stood from his command throne. The Krillians were nearly 9 feet tall and built like living tanks. Their ships reflected their nature, heavily armored, brutally efficient, designed for conquest. "Show me." The main display revealed 3 sleek vessels hanging in space ahead of the Krillian fleet. They were tiny compared to the massive warships, bearing down on them, looking more like patrol boats than military vessels. "Humans," spat Vorthak's intelligence officer. "A new species recently contacted by the Council. Their technology is centuries behind galactic standards." Vorthak laughed, a sound like grinding stone. 3 ships against 50? Are they insane? Or just stupid? "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. Put it through." "I want to hear what these primitives have to say." Captain Phillips appeared on the Krillian command screen. His uniform was simple, his manner professional. "This is Captain Ryan Phillips of the United Earthship Defiant. You are approaching a protected world. Please reverse course immediately." The Krillian bridge erupted in laughter. Vorthak stepped closer to the screen. "Human, I am General Vorthak of the Krillian Dominion. This world now belongs to us. Surrender your ships, and I will grant you quick deaths." Phillips' expression didn't change. "General, I'm going to give you one more chance to turn around. You really don't want to do this. Is that a threat?" Vorthak's voice rose to a roar. "You dare threaten the Krillian Dominion with 3 tiny ships? Not a threat, General. Just friendly advice, last chance." Vorthak's rage boiled over. "All ships, destroy those insects. Leave nothing but debris." The Krillian fleet opened fire with everything they had. Massive energy beams and plasma torpedoes filled the space between the 2 forces. The combined firepower was enough to crack a moon in half. Then something impossible happened. The human ships moved. They didn't just accelerate or change course, they moved in ways that defied everything the Krillians knew about physics. The 3 vessels twisted and spun through the barrage of weapons fire like dancers in a deadly ballet. Every shot missed, not by luck, but by precise calculation and impossible maneuvers. "What in the void?" Vorthak began, then stopped as the human ships fired back. The weapons that emerged from the human vessels looked like simple energy beams, but they cut through Krillian shields like they weren't there. The first 3 Krillian ships to take hits simply vanished in brilliant explosions. "Report!" Vorthak shouted over the alarms that were now blaring throughout his ship. "Sir, enemy weapons are completely unknown. They're penetrating our shields at 100% efficiency. We've lost 6 ships already." On the tactical display, the human ships continued their impossible dance. They moved like they could see the future, avoiding every shot while their own weapons found their targets with deadly precision. The Krillian formation, which had seemed so powerful moments before, was falling apart in chaos. "All ships, concentrate fire on the lead vessel," Vorthak ordered. "Bring everything to bear." 20 Krillian warships focused their weapons on the Defiant. The amount of energy unleashed should have vaporized anything smaller than a space station. The human ship flew straight through the barrage without taking a single hit. "Impossible," whispered Vorthak's tactical officer. "Nothing can move like that. It's like they know where we're going to shoot before we do." The Defiant's response was swift and terrible. A single beam of energy struck the Krillian flagship's main weapon. The massive plasma cannon that could destroy cities simply ceased to exist, leaving a perfectly smooth crater in the ship's hull. "Sir, they're not trying to destroy us," the tactical officer realized suddenly. "They're disabling our weapons." It was true. The human ships were systematically destroying the Krillian fleet's ability to fight, but leaving the ships themselves mostly intact. It was a display of precision that no known species could match. General Vorthak watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was reduced to helplessness. Ship after ship fell silent as their weapons were surgically removed by the human vessels. The humans weren't just winning, they were toying with him. "Sir, we've lost weapons on 37 ships," reported his communications officer. "The remaining vessels are requesting permission to retreat." Vorthak's pride warred with his survival instincts. The Krillian way was to fight to the death, but this wasn't a fight. This was a demonstration of power so complete that resistance was meaningless. "General Vorthak," came Captain Phillips' voice over the communication system. I think we've made our point. You have two choices. You can order your remaining ships to withdraw from Council space, or we can continue this demonstration until none of your vessels are capable of movement. Vorthek found his voice. What are you? No primitive species could do this. Phillips' image appeared on the screen again. His calm expression hadn't changed throughout the entire battle. General, you just learned something important about humanity. When we told the Council that you were seeing 1% of our capabilities, we weren't being modest. We were being literal. The words hit Vorthak like a physical blow. 1%? The ships you're facing are from our exploration fleet. The weapons we're using are standard patrol armament. The tactics we're employing are basic defensive maneuvers that any Academy graduate would know. Vorthek's legs gave out, and he collapsed into his command chair. If this is 1%, then what, General? You really don't want to find out what 100% looks like, Phillips interrupted gently. Take your ships and go home. Tell your leaders that humanity has no interest in conquest, but we will protect those who cannot protect themselves. The Krillian general looked at his tactical display. In 28 minutes, the most powerful fleet in Krillian history had been reduced to floating scrap. Not one human ship showed even minor damage. All ships, Vorthek said quietly, withdraw. From the system, full retreat. As the Krillian fleet limped away from Zentari Prime, Captain Phillips opened a new communication channel to Admiral Korath, who had been watching the entire battle from a safe distance. Admiral, this is Captain Phillips. The Krillian threat to the Zentari system has been neutralized. We're ready to return to patrol duties. Admiral Korath stared at his sensor readings, unable to believe what he was seeing. Captain, what did you... Admiral, with respect, we told you we'd handle it, Phillips replied with that same calm smile. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours of the Zentari incident, every intelligence agency in Council space was working overtime to gather information about humanity. What they discovered changed everything they thought. They knew about the universe. Ambassador Zethkar sat in his private office aboard the Valorian diplomatic station, staring at reports that made no sense. His hands shook as he read the intelligence briefings for the third time. According to the data, human colonies existed in star systems the Council had never even explored. This cannot be accurate, he muttered to himself, but the evidence was overwhelming. Long-range sensors were detecting massive energy signatures from dozens of systems previously thought to be empty. Industrial complexes that dwarfed the manufacturing capacity of entire Council worlds. Cities floating in space around stars the Council had dismissed as uninhabitable. His communications device chimed. Ambassador, you have an urgent call from High Command. Zethkar straightened his robes and activated the secure channel. Supreme Admiral Krextel appeared on the holographic display, his usually calm demeanor replaced by visible anxiety. Zethkar, tell me you have an explanation for what happened at Zentari Prime. Supreme Admiral, I am as shocked as you are. The humans I met were primitive, peaceful people with basic technology. What Captain Phillips demonstrated should be impossible for their species. Krextel's 4 eyes narrowed. Our intelligence division has been analyzing the battle recordings. The human ships moved with precision that suggests computer prediction systems centuries ahead of our own. Their weapons penetrated Krillian shields using principles we do not understand. Most disturbing of all, they held back during the entire engagement. Held back? The battle analysis shows the humans could have destroyed the entire Krillian fleet in the first 30 seconds. Instead, they chose to disable the ships and spare the crews. This suggests both incredible confidence and a moral system we failed to recognize. Zethkar felt a chill run through his body. Supreme Admiral, what are your orders? Find out everything you can about humanity. Real humanity, not the facade they showed us, and Zethkar. Be very careful. We may have seriously misjudged these beings. The communication ended, leaving Zethkar alone with his growing fear. He had treated the humans like children, offering them charity and protection. Now he wondered what those calm, Patient humans had really been thinking during their meetings. Meanwhile, on the Council Intelligence Station, Director Vrix was having the worst day of his career. The Zarian had built his reputation on knowing everything about every species in the galaxy. The human revelation made him look like an amateur. "Report," he snapped at his team of analysts. Agent Cal, a young Talvek with exceptional research skills, stepped forward nervously. "Sir, we have confirmed the existence of at least 300 human worlds across 47 star systems. Their industrial output appears to exceed the combined capacity of the 5 largest Council economies. 300 worlds?" Vrix's tentacles writhed in distress. "How did we miss an empire of that size?" "Sir, they appear to have been very careful about concealing their activities. The human colonies are located in systems reclassified as too dangerous or too remote for habitation. They have been using advanced technology to terraform worlds we thought were impossible to colonize." Another analyst spoke up. "Director, we are detecting massive ship movements throughout human space. Vessels that make our largest dreadnoughts look like shuttlecraft." Vrix stared at the tactical displays showing human ship signatures. The vessels were enormous, some over 10 kilometers in length. More troubling was the sheer number of them. The humans appeared to have thousands of these massive ships. "What is the assessment of human military capability?" Agent Kell consulted his datapad. "Unknown, sir. Based on the Zentari engagement, we estimate the patrol group that defeated the Krillians represents less than 1,000th of their actual fleet strength." 1,000th? Vrix felt his heart skip a beat. "Are you certain?" "Sir," Captain Phillips stated, "they were using 1% of human capabilities. If we assume he was referring to their overall military capacity, and that single patrol represents 1% of 1%. Vrix did the math in his head and felt sick. If the analysts were correct, humanity possessed the largest military force in galactic history. "Sir, there is something else," Agent Kell continued hesitantly. "We have detected evidence of human presence in the galactic core regions. Impossible. The radiation levels in the core would kill any known life form." "Yes, sir." "But the energy?" "Signatures suggest the humans have found ways to not only survive there, but to build massive installations. We believe they may have been using the galactic core as a hidden industrial base for decades." Vrix dismissed his team and sat alone in his office, contemplating the implications. Humanity had not just hidden their true capabilities. They had built a secret empire while the Council watched their homeworld and saw only a primitive species. Taking its first steps into space. 3 days after the Zentari incident, General Patricia Stone arrived at Council headquarters aboard the UES Leviathan. The ship was so massive that it could not dock with the station. Instead, it maintained a stable orbit that cast a shadow over the entire diplomatic complex. The sight of the Leviathan sent panic through the Council leadership. The vessel was clearly a warship, but its size defied everything they knew about space combat. Weapons that large should be impossible to power. Yet the human ship hung in space like a small moon. General Stone herself was not what the Council expected. She was a woman in her 50s with graying hair and the calm, professional manner. She wore a simple blue uniform with minimal decorations, giving no hint of commanding the most powerful warship any of them had ever seen. Ambassador Zethkar met her at the diplomatic docking bay, trying to hide his nervousness. "General Stone, welcome to Council headquarters." "I am Ambassador Zethkar. We spoke briefly during the first contact protocols." "I remember you, Ambassador," Stone replied with a slight smile. "You were very kind to our people during those early meetings. I hope we can continue that spirit of cooperation." As they walked through the station corridors, alien beings stopped to stare at the human general. Word of the Zentari incident had spread throughout the station, and everyone wanted to see what a real human military commander looked like. "General, the Council leadership is very interested in learning more about humanity's true capabilities," Zethkar said carefully. "I imagine they are," Stone replied. "We should have been more forthcoming during our initial contacts, but humanity has learned to be cautious about revealing too much too quickly. They entered the main conference chamber where the Council's senior leadership waited. Admiral Korath was there, along with Supreme Admiral Krextel, Director Vrix, and representatives from all the major Council species. General Stone took her seat calmly, showing no sign of intimidation despite being outnumbered by hundreds of alien officials. Admiral Korath spoke first. General Stone, the Council requests clarification about human military capabilities. The engagement at Centauri Prime has raised significant questions about your species' true nature. Admiral, I understand your concerns, Stone replied. Let me be completely honest with you. The patrol group that engaged the Krillians represents a tiny fraction of human military capacity. Captain Phillips and his ships are from our exploration fleet, designed for long-range reconnaissance and first contact situations. Director Vrix leaned forward. General, our intelligence suggests humanity controls hundreds of worlds and possesses thousands of warships. Is this accurate? Stone nodded. Your intelligence is reasonably accurate, though the actual numbers are somewhat higher. Humanity has been spacefaring for nearly 2 centuries. We have built a substantial civilization. During that time, 2 centuries? Supreme Admiral Krextel could not hide his shock. But your first contact protocols suggested you were new to space travel. The humans who met with you were our diplomats and scientists, Stone explained patiently. They volunteered to make first contact because they are the most peaceful members of our society. We thought it would be better to introduce ourselves gradually rather than arriving with a fleet of warships. A Zarian representative asked the question everyone was thinking. General, if humanity possesses such advanced technology and military power, why hide it? Why not simply claim your rightful place as the galaxy's dominant species? Colonel Ben Carter, Stone's aide, spoke for the first time. Because we have learned that power without wisdom leads to tyranny. Humanity spent many years fighting wars among ourselves before we learned to work together. We wanted to understand the galactic community before we became part of it. Admiral Korath studied the human general. General Stone, what are humanity's intentions toward the Council? Peaceful cooperation, Stone answered immediately. We have no interest in conquest or domination. We simply want to be part of a stable, peaceful galaxy where all species can thrive, and if other species threaten that stability? Asked Supreme Admiral Krextel. Stone's expression became slightly harder. Then we will respond appropriately. The Krillians learned that peaceful species are not necessarily helpless species. We hope that lesson will be remembered. The Krillian Dominion's response to their defeat at Centauri Prime was swift and desperate. Supreme War Leader Thrikavol gathered every ship in the Dominion fleet, calling back forces from across their territory. If the humans thought one small battle would end Krillian expansion, they would learn otherwise. Thrikavol stood in the command center of his massive fortress ship, the Iron Throne, studying tactical displays that showed the largest invasion fleet in Dominion history. Over 2,000 warships, including their most powerful dreadnoughts and planet-killer vessels, all heading toward human space. War Leader, the fleet is assembled, reported his second-in-command, General Vorthak. The veteran had returned from Centauri Prime, a broken warrior, constantly muttering about ships that moved like ghosts and weapons that cut through shields like air. Vorthak, you saw these humans fight, Thrikavol growled. What advantages do they possess? War Leader, their ships are unlike anything we have encountered. They move with impossible precision and their weapons are beyond our understanding. But they are few in number. Only 3 ships defended an entire star system. Thrikavol's scarred face twisted into what might have been a smile. Then we will bring so many ships that their precision becomes meaningless. No force can stand against 2,000 warships, no matter how advanced their technology. The massive Krillian fleet moved through hyperspace toward the outer edge of human territory. Intelligence reports suggested the humans had colonies near the Kepler Nebula, far from Council protection. It would be the perfect target for Dominion. Vengeance. What the Krillians did not know was that humanity had been watching their fleet movements since the moment they left. Dominion Space. Admiral Helen Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Titan, humanity's newest flagship. At 15 kilometers long, the Titan was one of the largest vessels ever constructed by human shipyards. Around her, a fleet of over 300 ships waited in the darkness between stars. Admiral Krillian fleet composition is confirmed, reported Commander Lisa Park from the tactical station. 2,047 vessels, including 12 Planet Killer-class dreadnoughts. They are heading directly for Kepler Station. Admiral Rodriguez was a woman in her 40s with calm eyes and silver hair. She had commanded human fleets for over a decade, but this would be her largest engagement. Any response from the Dominion? To our diplomatic messages? No, Admiral. They have ignored all attempts at communication, Rodriguez nodded. She had hoped to avoid this confrontation, but the Krillians seemed determined to test humanity's resolve. Signal the fleet, all ships to battle stations. We intercept the Dominion fleet at the designated coordinates. The human fleet moved through hyperspace like a school of predators. Unlike the Krillian mass formation, the human ships traveled in smaller groups, each with specific tactical assignments. They had been planning for this moment since the first intelligence reports about Krillian fleet movements. At Kepler Station, the civilian population went about their daily lives unaware of the approaching danger. The station housed nearly 1 million people, including families of human explorers and scientists. It represented everything humanity had built in the outer systems: peaceful, productive, and worth protecting. Commander Jake Morrison, now serving as Kepler Station's administrator, watched the long-range sensors from the station's command center. He was the same man who had conducted humanity's first contact with the aliens, though his role had changed significantly since then. "Sir, we are detecting massive hyperspace signatures approaching the system," reported his sensor operator. "The Krillian fleet? Yes, sir." Estimated arrival in 6 hours. Morrison activated the station-wide communication system. "This is Commander Morrison. All civilian personnel begin evacuation procedures immediately. This is not a drill. Report to designated evacuation ships for immediate departure from the system." As families and workers began the orderly evacuation that humanity had practiced many times, Morrison contacted Admiral Rodriguez. "Admiral, Kepler Station is beginning evacuation. We will be clear of the system in 4 hours." "Understood, Commander." "The fleet will engage the Krillians before they reach the station. Admiral, there are over 2,000 enemy ships." "Are you certain your fleet is sufficient?" Rodriguez smiled slightly. "Commander, the Krillians are about to learn the difference between 1% and 100% of human military capability." The two fleets met in the empty space between stars, far from any inhabited worlds. The Krillian armada dropped out of hyperspace in a massive formation that stretched across thousands of kilometers. War leader Thrikavil felt satisfaction as he looked at the tactical display showing his overwhelming numerical advantage. Then the humans appeared. The human fleet materialized around the Krillian formation like hunters surrounding prey. Ships that had been invisible suddenly filled the space on all sides, their sleek hulls gleaming with advanced armor and weapon systems. "Impossible," breathed Thrikavil's tactical officer. "Where did they come from?" The human ships were larger and more advanced than anything seen at Centauri Prime. The smallest vessels were the size of Krillian cruisers, while the largest dwarfed even the Iron Throne. Most shocking of all, there seemed to be thousands of them. "War leader, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet," reported the communications officer. Admiral Rodriguez appeared on the main screen, her expression calm but firm. "War leader Thrikavil, I am Admiral Helen Rodriguez of the United Earth Fleet. You are in violation of Council space and are threatening civilian populations. Withdraw your forces immediately." Thrikavil found his voice. "Admiral, you are outnumbered 7-1. Surrender your ships, and I will grant your crews quick deaths." "War leader, you are making the same mistake your predecessor made at Centauri Prime. You are confusing numbers with capability. This is your final warning." Thrikavil's rage overcame his tactical sense. "All ships, open fire! Destroy them all!" The Battle of Kepler Station began with the largest weapons barrage in galactic history. 2,000 Krillian ships fired simultaneously, their combined firepower enough to shatter moons. The space between the fleets erupted in brilliant energy as countless weapons discharged at once. When the light faded, the human fleet remained completely intact. Every shot had missed. The human ships moved through the barrage like dancers, their formations flowing and shifting with impossible precision. Advanced defensive systems that bent space around the vessels turned the most powerful weapons into harmless light shows. The human response was swift and overwhelming. The Titan's main cannon fired once, sending a beam of energy that vaporized 3 Krillian dreadnoughts instantly. Around the fleet, hundreds of other human ships opened fire with weapons that made the Zentauri engagement look like a training exercise. Unlike at Centauri Prime, the humans were not holding back. Krillian ships disappeared in brilliant explosions as human weapons tore through their formations. The advanced shields and armor that had made the Dominion fleet feared throughout the galaxy proved useless against humanity's true military technology. "Shields down on decks 7 through 12, screamed Threekevil's damage control officer. "We have lost main weapons." The Iron Throne, the pride of the Krillian fleet, was being systematically dismantled by a single human cruiser. Each shot removed another weapon system or piece of armor with surgical precision. "War leader, we have lost 60% of the fleet," reported his tactical officer. "The remaining ships are requesting permission to retreat." Threekevil stared at the tactical display in horror. In less than 30 minutes, the largest military force in Dominion history had been reduced to scattered wreckage. The human fleet continued its advance, destroying ships faster than his sensors could track. "All ships, full retreat. Emergency hyperspace jumps." Threekeval ordered. As the surviving Krillian vessels fled in panic, Admiral Rodriguez opened a communication channel to the Iron Throne. "War leader Threekeval, you have seen what happens when humanity stops holding back. Take word back to your people. The Dominion will cease all aggressive actions immediately, or we will visit every Krillian world and remove your ability to make war permanently." Threekeval looked at the human admiral through his cracked viewscreen. "What are you?" "We are humans," Rodriguez replied simply. "We prefer peace, but we are very good at war when necessary. Choose wisely." The communication ended as the Iron Throne limped into hyperspace. Carrying word of humanity's true power back to Dominion space, the Battle of Kepler Station lasted 47 minutes. When it ended, the Krillian Dominion sent an unconditional surrender to the Galactic Council within hours. They formally requested protected status and promised to dismantle their military forces under human supervision. Word of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than hyperspace travel. Species that had never heard of humanity suddenly found themselves studying human culture and history. The peaceful species from the small blue world had just demonstrated military capabilities that redefined galactic power. 3 months later, Ambassador Jake Morrison stood before the Galactic Council one final time. The chamber was fuller than it had ever been, with representatives from hundreds of species eager to hear humanity's intentions. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Morrison of Earth," announced the session moderator.